Alright, so we are on to Chapter 2. That was Chapter 1. It's a short chapter, and most of it is about the history of aviation and everything. So let's get on to Chapter 2. Chapter 2, which is Aeronautical Decision Making. And you can see that I am struggling a little bit trying to keep the airplane straight and level. So there must be some wind pushing me here, and I'm also just constantly playing with the throttle and the trim to kind of try to keep everything level. As you can see, we're taking the same route that you would to drive down there. We've got the freeway here. That's the 15 freeway. It goes up and it goes between those mountains, pretty much the same way we're going. We've got a little ways to go, so I think we can get through Chapter 2 here. So what the book talks about is ADM, which is Aeronautical Decision Making. And everything I've ever been taught is make good decisions. Anytime I'm about to go up in the airplane, my instructor will always finish by saying, have a good flight, make good decisions. And that is there's a lot to that. If there's something broken on the airplane, do you need it? Can you fly without it? Make the decision as pilot in command for a go, no go. How's the weather? Can we fly today? It may look as clear as it does right now, but if you were to check the weather reports, you would find that there is a lot of wind that is unfavorable. You don't want to get caught up in something where you and the plane can be affected in some adverse way and cause you to crash. You don't want to crash. You want to get to your destination. You want to have fun flying the plane. Like right now, I chose for us today to fly during clear skies because outside it is very windy. It was raining off and on. Some big puffy clouds. There was even some calls for thunderstorms in the area, and you want to stay as far away from thunderstorms as you can. Now, like I mentioned in my other series that I'm going to be making it for my Storm Chaser series, I'm going to go looking for those. But I'm not going to fly in this little plane because we might do one where let's test to see what happens in the simulator in a thunderstorm flying a Piper Archer. All I can say is it's probably going to end bad. That's why a lot of the Storm Chaser airplanes that go into hurricanes and stuff, they have the big multi-engine airplanes. They have at least 2, if not 4 propellers going. And there's also another reason for using the propellers. You don't want to get too much moisture sucked into the engines, into a jet engine, because it could actually put out the flame and you'll lose your engine. Similar things can kind of happen with propellers, but they're built differently. We're going to get into that in one of these chapters. We'll talk about the engines. I can tell you that this engine that is in the Piper is a line combing. I think that's how you say it. It's a horizontally opposed engine, 4 pistons, but they're 2 on each side, kind of in a horizontal line of each other. But there's a lot of different engines out there. One of the planes I love the most is a Grumman Goose, and those have the old big radial engines. Learning behavior modification techniques, learning how to recognize and cope with stress. That has to do with you, the pilot, and sometimes other people that you're flying with. Developing risk assessment skills. Use all your resources, and then evaluating the effectiveness of one's ADM skills. Here I am trying to read and fly. Sorry. Let me get back on course. I'm trying to follow the freeway there. Alright, so risk management. What do we mean by risk management? Accept no unnecessary risk. I mean, that's pretty self-evident, right? If you know that the engine is making a strange sound on the ground, and it's making a big clanking noise that you haven't heard before, I'm not going to accept that risk. There's something going on, and I don't want to have to be up in the air and do an emergency landing. So don't accept that risk. You know, nothing is that important that you need to get to another destination by flying where that's going to happen. Same can be said, like if you're driving through the desert and you know that it's 110 degrees outside, or even maybe it's snowing, do you really need to get to your destination that badly that your car could break down in the middle of nowhere? No. So same goes with flying. It's a little more involved when it comes to flying. Make risk decisions at the appropriate level. So your risk decisions should be made by the person who can develop and implement risk controls. So if you're the pilot in command, you need to be able to identify what decisions need to be made. If that's not you, then you need to look at somebody else who can make those decisions. And hopefully that's going to be you, because you're the pilot in command. Everybody's going to look up to the captain, right? Accept risk when benefits outweigh dangers. So what this is saying, you know, a day with good weather, for example, is a much better time to fly a plane, an unfamiliar airplane, for the first time than a day with low IFR conditions. So just, once again, if you're looking at that weather, doesn't look good, don't do it. And the last one here says, integrate risk management into planning at all levels. So no matter what you're doing, just weigh the pros and cons and figure, is this worth it? I mean, you want to be a safe pilot. You want to be aware of your situation. You want to be aware of the factors around you. You want to be aware of the weather that's there. You want to be aware of all the other airplanes that are also in the air. Keep looking around, find the best route, and get there. Unless you're a really experienced pilot, like if you're going through the mountains or something, I wouldn't go flying through the canyons, because it may look really cool and it may be fun, but you don't know if the canyon is suddenly going to end and you're faced with a wall of mountain. So make good decisions, as my CFI always tells me. So then we get into assessing risk. So you look at the risk and you say, is it probable? Is it occasional? Is it remote? Is it improbable? So probable means it's going to the event will occur several times. Occasional means an event will probably occur sometime. Remote, it's unlikely. And improbable, it's highly unlikely. So that's the first step of assessing risk. Like, how probable is it going to be that this is going to happen? And then you look at the severity of the risk. Is it negligible? Minor? Marginal? It's minor injury, maybe minor damage. Critical could be severe injury and major damage. Or catastrophic, you're dead. So you kind of look at the things and say, okay, well, this is a probable risk that could happen and what could happen. So if I'm flying towards a thunderstorm and I'm like, well, the risk of going into a thunderstorm is very probable. It's going to happen. Whatever is inside there it's going to affect us. And it's probably going to be critical to catastrophic. You're going to hit updrafts, it's going to blow you up 1,000 feet, and then you hit a downdraft, and it could blow you all the way down to the surface. Your plane could get completely iced up, you'll lose your engine, and by the time you get out of the cloud, you're 100 feet above the ground. And there's nothing you can do. So that's a bad risk. That's why even the most seasoned pilots, then they're not going to just fly through a thunderstorm. They're going to see it on their radar, and if they're looking and they see a towering cumulus forming in front of them, they're going to divert and turn the plane so that they can go around it. And even when you get close to it, you might hit some major turbulence. But they don't want to fly through the thunderstorm, because that's not going to be fun for anybody, and the comfort of the passengers is going to scare them. So assess that risk before you get to it, and figure out what is going to be the best solution here. So you see what the risk is. You decide how likely it is. Then what will the outcome be? And once you figure some of that stuff out, you're going to become a much better pilot. You're really going to be able to figure out how to get through these situations. Next, we have mitigating risk. So what would you do if you see that the weather is bad? Well, let's wait. Let's wait for the weather to calm down, to improve. Sometimes there's just a little storm that comes through, and on the back end, you'll have nice clear weather. Maybe the winds aren't so bad. That's much better. You delay the flight, cancel the flight, and the last one they have here is you can drive. So we're flying to Vegas right now, and what if it was stormy weather and I don't really want to fly to Vegas right now because it's nasty out and I don't like flying through storms and stuff like that. You can always drive. Now, in a little plane, you're not going to be flying all the way across the country anyway. And you probably wouldn't drive either. But you might wait, let that weather calm down. So they have an acronym. It's called IMSAFE. So these are kind of the things when you get to the airport, you go over it in your head and you say, I am safe. Let me go through this checklist. And this is for the pilot. So, illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue. So if any of those are affecting you, it's probably not good to go flying. So if you got the flu, you don't want to go up there. Your ears are going to hurt. It's going to clog your sinuses. It's not going to be a fun flight for you. If you're on medication, what if it's a medication that can make you drowsy, make you loopy, things like that? Best not to. If you just had a fight with your significant other or parent or friend and you're really upset and you get to the airport and you go stomping over to the airplane and you're like, let's get this over with. Probably not a good thing to go flying like that. Should let yourself cool off and make yourself feel a little bit better. Go and take a breather somewhere. Alcohol, that's a huge no-no. If you've had alcohol in the last 8 hours, you cannot legally fly. If your blood alcohol level is above a 0.04%, you cannot legally fly. Remember the next day after heavy drinking on a Saturday night, but hey, you stopped at before midnight and you're flying at, let's say, 10 o'clock the next morning. Okay, so you're past that 8 hours. But when you wake up, you are super hungover. Your head hurts. The light is just way too bright. And you don't feel great. You have to pop a couple of Advil. You're still under the effects of alcohol. You may not have the 0.04, but you're still technically under the effects of alcohol. So not a good idea to go flying. And then the last one, well, not the last one, second to last, fatigue. Are you too tired to fly? I mean, what if you're up there and you start dozing off? It's like when you're driving, you start feeling like you can't keep your eyes open. You got to pull over and give yourself a second. Well, up in the air, you can't pull over. You got to get to your destination or find an airport that you can land at immediately. So why put yourself in that position? Don't go up there. Don't go flying. Get some good sleep. Be ready for your flight. And the last one, emotional. Are you emotionally upset? This can be a big one. It goes with stress as well. But if you're too emotional about something, it's just best not to go flying once again. So you go through this checklist as you're walking up to the airplane, or even when you're sitting in the parking lot, or maybe even before you even get in your car, you're at home. I'm going on a flight. Do any of these factors, do they ring true with me? So with the IMSAFE, you also have the PAVE checklist, which is another acronym, which stands for the pilot and command, the aircraft. This one's weird. V stands for environment. And then E is external pressures. So the pilot, the P, is the IMSAFE checklist. So you're checking out the pilot, make sure the pilot is okay and ready to fly. The A is the aircraft, and that's where we go through all the different things in the aircraft and making sure that it's ready to fly. Is it equipped? Is it okay? Are all the inspections done? Can we fly this plane safely? Is it okay to fly this plane anywhere? Because if something's wrong, like that clanking noise in the engine when the propeller's running, you don't want to fly. Environment. Environment is your weather, your terrain, the airport, the airspace. So, is the weather okay for you to fly? What kind of terrain are you going to be dealing with? Like right now, I'm flying towards some mountains right now. And up ahead, there is a small pass. Now I could go one way and it would be treacherous, and I might fly directly in the middle of two mountain peaks. Or I could go through this little valley, which might take me a little bit longer. And I could definitely do that. So you choose which way you want to go. What's going to be the safest? Right now, I have perfect visibility. I have clear skies. I don't have any nasty weather. So we can do the split in the two peaks, which is what's planned. But just because it's a more direct route doesn't mean it's the safest route. Make sure that you've looked at all your elevations and make sure that you can fly this airplane correctly, and that you're not going to put yourself or anybody else in danger. The airport, what lights are available at the airport, what kind of runways do they have, what's the length of the runways. These are all things that you're going to have to know ahead of flying, because if you're flying one of these little airplanes, yeah, you can land on some shorter runways. What if you are flying a bigger private jet? You're going to need a much longer runway. If the runway you're going to is too short, you might go off the edge. That's not going to be good. And the last one you got here is airspace. What kind of airspace are you going to be flying through or over? Are you going to be flying over water? Or just land? Nighttime as well. If you're planning a night trip, you really got to know all the variables. I know one of my night trips, it was a perfectly clear night. I was with my instructor, and I saw the beacon of the airport. So I knew it was over there. But what I was focusing on for the runway, because I couldn't see the runway, what I thought was the runway was actually a parking lot. So at the last second, he's like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "Isn't that the runway?" And he points it out to me, and it was just very faint. And that was the first night flight I did. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, you got to know the runways, what direction they're heading, where they're pointing, either way. You got to know how to land at these runways too. So that's very important, so that when you're flying around and you don't see that runway, you don't just aim for the Walmart parking lot. That'll end up being a very bad day. And then the last thing of PAVE is E for external pressures. What do you got for external pressures? You have a passenger. The pilot does not want to disappoint. The desire to demonstrate pilot qualifications. Never try to show off. Never try to show off. Because, frankly, like a lot of guys like to show off and say, "Oh, watch me like dive bomb this airplane," and that ends up not being a good idea. It would be better to just show, "Hey, I can take you up somewhere safe, and we can have fun flying around and go have dinner somewhere nice, and then fly home." And that's going to be much better, and everybody's going to be happier at the end of the day. So, couple of key tips. Always allow for extra time on a trip, maybe for a fuel stop or to make an unexpected landing because of weather. Have alternate plans, make backups, so that you don't have that stress. Like, if you're flying somewhere and it's like, oh God, I'm going to be late for Thanksgiving dinner, and we're flying up to see the family and all that stuff. Well, have alternate arrangements just in case. Because if you really need to get up there and you hit bad weather and you're like, well, we have to get there. I mean, you want to safety first. Don't just try to get there as fast as possible. If you run into that bad weather, or you get lost, or maybe your plane ate up more fuel than you thought it was going to. So give yourself more time. And when in doubt, turn around, go home. Maybe find that this is just not working out. You go home, you call your family, sorry, couldn't make it. Or, hey, I'll be up there a little bit later because now we're going to drive. So it's going to take a few more hours till we get there. And everybody's going to be happy because you know what? They're going to be like, hey, that's okay, no problem. Take your time, be safe. And then when you get up there, everybody's happy. So there's something called the 5 Ps. You got the plane, the plan, the pilot, the passengers, and the programming. These are all decision-making points. So think about it, these are all the little things that you want to look at and kind of decide if, all in all, the plan is good. Is the plane good? How's the pilot? Is he good? Are the passengers okay? And then the programming. Programming would be like the GPS and your electronics and things like that. With the passengers, there was a question on my written test that I got right, but I wasn't totally sure, and I had to look it up afterwards. because if a passenger is drunk, they should not be getting on your airplane. But if they're in need of medical attention and it's an emergency, then it's okay. So I would have answered, no, it's not okay. He's drunk. Not allowed to get on my plane. But if it's in emergency and they're under a doctor's care, then yes, they can be on the plane. When I was looking at that question, I was thinking of in the situation of being in this little plane that we're in right now. Is it going to be okay for them to be in the back seat and the doctor in the passenger seat? Yeah, I guess that's okay. I personally wouldn't want somebody in that condition in my plane, because you don't know what they're going to do. What if they're so drunk that they decide that they're going to start screwing with the pilot? But if they're under care, then it's okay. So the way the book talks to us about looking at the 5 P's, they say perceive, process, and perform. They really like P's. So perceive the given set of circumstances for a flight, process by evaluating their impact on flight safety, then perform by implementing the best course of action. I think that's probably good advice in whatever you do. Take a look at what's going on in the flight, and then think, okay, how's this going to affect us? Is this going to screw us up? And then what's the best course of action moving forward? So that's great advice for any kind of risk management, honestly. So here's another little acronym they like. The aviation has so many acronyms. TEAM, TEAM. So there's transfer, eliminate, accept, mitigate. So transfer, should the risk decision be transferred to someone else? Like, do you need to consult the chief flight instructor? Eliminate, is there a way to eliminate the hazard? Accept, do the benefits of accepting risk outweigh the costs? And then mitigate, what can you do to mitigate the risk? Again, that's pretty good risk assessment and management for any kind of situation, any kind of disaster that you're going through. Earthquake, hurricane, tornado. These are good character building kind of things. If you can really figure stuff like this out, this will be big when it comes to becoming a captain, because you're in charge of maybe a couple hundred souls. These people get on the plane and they expect you to take care of them, get them to their destination. A lot of them are scared and aren't looking forward to going up to 35, 40,000 feet. And then you got another acronym, the DECIDE model. So you have detect, estimate, choose, identify, do, evaluate. Uh-oh. Guess what I forgot to do? I didn't change the fuel tanks, guys. We ran out of fuel. I'm too busy talking. And there you go. There you have it. That will show you exactly what will happen. So I switched the fuel tank right at the right time. And so now we're kind of in a stability, a static stability, going up and down, trying to rebalance the airplane. So now the plane is going to be a little right heavy. So I've been holding on the left of the yoke, kind of pulling to the left for like the last 30 minutes. And that makes a lot of sense because there is a lot of weight now on the right hand side in the right tank and nothing in the left tank. So see, when I'm actually flying, I have a watch that will go off every 30 minutes. As soon as I set that timer, every 30 minutes it goes off and it buzzes because I can't hear it. And it buzzes. I look and I'm like, oh, fuel. I switch my fuel tanks. Let's get back on course here. Okay, so the decide model. So you're detecting, the decision maker detects the fact that there's a change has occurred. Estimate, the decision maker estimates the need to counter or react to the change. Choose, the decision maker chooses a desirable outcome. Identify, the decision maker identifies actions which could successfully control the change. Do, the decision maker takes the necessary action. And evaluate, the decision maker evaluates the effects of his or her action countering the change. So the book has a little flow chart that kind of shows you how things go. You know, it goes, there's a situation. What's the situation? What does it affect? The pilot, the aircraft, the environment, external factors. Then it goes to detection. We just saw that we had a problem. All of a sudden the throttle went down and the plane started to dive, and what is it? The first thing I thought of, shoot, I didn't change the fuel tank. I didn't switch it. So we detected the problem. We evaluated the problem. What were the hazards? Well, we were going to crash if I didn't correct it. What's the outcome desired? Not to crash, you know. Let's get straight and level again. And the solutions. Well, the first solution is going to be, I'm going to switch the fuel tank and see if that helps. What's the best action to do? Well, that was it. Switching the fuel tank. And what was the effect of the decision? We got our engine back and we're back straight and level. And done. If the problem remains, you go back to the detection. Go back to the top. Okay, we detected a problem. What else could it be? And you start going through checklists. You start figuring things out. That's the decide model. So they have in here stress management. Everybody gets stressed. You know, everybody has a bad day. You're not really any different from anybody else in that respect. So how do you manage your stress? You got to identify what the problem is. You use the decide method. What's the problem? How do I fix this problem? What do I need to do? Well, sometimes maybe you just need to go out and take a breather. Go sit in a park under a tree. Go over to Coffee Bean or Starbucks, whatever you like. Get yourself your favorite latte. And just chill out for a little bit. If you're in a stressful environment up at 35,000 feet, maybe that's a little less possible. Can't step out of the airplane. Go sit on the wing at 35,000 feet. Figure out your life's problems. And you're gonna, under those kind of circumstances, you're gonna have to figure things out, and quick. And identify the problems that are in front of you. Get to your destination safely. I got us a little off course here when we did that little dip. But we're coming up on these mountains. So these mountains in front of us are let's see, we have one on the left that's going to be 79.23, and the one on the right 64.99, and we're about 7,800 feet right now. So the way that I've plotted the course, we're going to be going with the freeway, and it looks like it's a big enough gap that we can squeeze through it. I don't see the freeway right now. Where is the freeway? I think it's way over there to the left. We're gonna join back up with it. We're just on a different airway that's taking us a little bit to the right of it, but we're gonna cross over the freeway up here. So there's a lot in here about managing your risks. One of the other things that you can use is yet another acronym: safety. Are your seatbelts fastened for taxi, takeoff, landing? Shoulder harnesses fastened for takeoff and landing? Is your seat position adjusted and locked in place? A, air vents. All environmental controls, have they been discussed? Action in case of any passenger discomfort. F, fire extinguisher. Do you know the location and how to operate it? Fire extinguishers are pretty easy to use. You pull the pin, aim, squeeze the trigger. So hopefully you know how to use it. Hopefully you've never had to use it, but hopefully you know how to use it. If you don't, you should take a look at one. If you're going to operate one for a practice, you can always go to your local fire station and see if they have a course on operating fire extinguishers. Because they probably have some test ones that you can practice with. E, exit doors, are they secure? How do they open? Do you have an emergency evacuation plan? Do you have an emergency survival kit? Where is it? What's in it? T, traffic. Are you constantly scanning the skies? And we're going to get into that in the medical chapter. There's a real method on scanning, but you basically want to look 10 degrees, then wait a second, look another 10 degrees, wait a second, look another 10 degrees, because things are small and far away. Sometimes the light obscures it. Maybe there's a lack of light It's nighttime. So keep scanning, keep spotting. Hopefully, if you have a passenger, they're looking as well, and they can point it out to you. Oh yeah, there it is. Cool, thanks. There's so many times I've been up there that I'm looking around and they're like, follow the Skyhawk, and I'm like, I just don't see it. My instructor says, oh, there it is. You know, you might be looking a little bit higher. He's on a final, so he's a little bit lower, and you're looking about the same level that you are, about 1,800 feet, or pattern altitude, wherever you are. You could be at 1,000 feet. Talking. There's a thing called the sterile flight deck, and a lot of commercial pilots do it. It's usually a company thing that they insist on. Under 10,000 feet, you have a sterile cockpit, which means no talking, unless it has to do with flight operations. And I think that's a good thing. You know, don't talk to me about, you know, the birthday party you went to. I don't want to hear about the bar the other night. I don't want to hear about a TV show you just watched. Let's concentrate on getting this plane on the ground safely. Because if you're talking about something, air traffic control could have said something and I missed it. And you missed it too because you're my co-pilot. So a sterile cockpit is always good. So if you're up there flying with friends, even tell them, look, I like to run my ship like a sterile cockpit, and keep your talking to a minimum. If you need information about something, hey, let's ask me a question, no problem. You don't have to be completely silent, but at the same time, like I said, let's not talk about so-and-so who did, you know, something the other day. Let's keep it professional. And then why? Your questions. Speak up. If you've got a question about something, you're unsure about something, let's talk. Let's talk about it. Let's, you know, I can answer your question, hopefully. So, probably the last thing really in this chapter that's really important is, you know, kind of getting beyond the rote workmanship. The rote workmanship kind of means something that you do on a regular basis, something that you know, it just becomes habit. Kind of get past that. You know, if it says here, if a pilot has to analyze what key to push next, or always uses the same sequence of keystrokes when others are available, he or she may be trapped in a rote process. So you don't want to be in that. You want to be able to do things and know that there's other ways of doing them, so that you don't get stuck. Because what if something else happens and you're like, my normal keystroke, it doesn't work. You can figure it out by knowing that there are several ways of doing the same thing sometimes. And the chapter 2 ends basically by kind of going over that stuff again. So here's that mountain pass. You can see there's the freeway down below us. There's the freeway. Oh, and by the way, 41369er, that is the tail number of one of the planes that I fly most often. It doesn't look like this one. It is a Piper, but it's a Warrior, and it's definitely different colors. One of the planes I fly, I call it the Top Ramen. I don't know if you've ever had like Top Ramen cup of noodles. Their color scheme and stripes is the same as the airplane that I fly. I'll post a picture of it one of these days. It's funny though, because I mentioned it to my instructor, and now he doesn't call it anything other than Top Ramen as well. So just so you see, here we are, and here's the mountain pass. So here's the 7,923 and 6,499 to our right. So we're going between this. There's definitely plenty of space. You can see I'm kind of off course right now anyway, but we can pretty much go anywhere in between this and we'll be fine. Alright, well that concludes chapters 1 and 2. And we also got to do our pre-flight and our run-up. So in future episodes, I probably won't do the whole run-up and everything. Just we want to make the videos a little bit shorter. It's supposed to be a 2-hour flight, and I know this is a long video, but hopefully it helps people out there. I know it helps me when I am kind of explaining things back to everybody. Makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more fun, and hopefully you understand some of the items that are there with the way that I explain it. And please, by all means, if there's other people who've taken their check rides, who've are CFIs or professional pilots or something that are watching this, if you want to correct me, I've got no problem with the corrections, because if I'm wrong, I would love to know so that I can be sure that when I'm in front of my DPE, I'm not making a fool of myself and explaining it incorrectly. So, we are, I'm not sure, let's see. It says 26 minutes from our destination. We are actually descending. Didn't mean to be descending. Let's add a little throttle. Airspeed's about 79 miles an hour. We're not going very fast, huh? Kick it up to full throttle, give it some a little more mixture. We're real close. We're technically in the arrival for Las Vegas. You'll be seeing the city here soon. It's kind of off to the left, off that way there, kind of over those little ridges. was wondering why we were going slow. See, in real life, probably be looking around. I'm like, why am I going so slow? I had the flaps in. We were in slow flight there. Whoops. I promise I'll get better at some of these in the future. It kind of threw me though with the autopilot. I'm gonna have to look it up and figure out why the autopilot's not working, because I know there is autopilot. I've used it in the past. For some reason it doesn't want to work. I know I didn't put in my flight plan into the GPS, but I should still be able to go like heading mode. If I turn on heading mode, it just turns itself right back off. So let's see, we're 7,200 feet and climbing back up again. We don't have to be going too crazy with our elevation now. We're over the highest peaks. So let's see, I'll bring our RPMs back a little bit. And once again, I will pull back on the fuel mixture. And the RPMs start to dip. I'll turn it back up a little bit. That way we'll get the best fuel efficiency. There we go. Our ground speed is 104. Airspeed's about 92. So we got about a 10 knot headwind. I kept looking at the airspeed and wondering, why are we going like 80 the whole time? This is why we do this, so that we practice, we learn, we figure new things out, right? So still, it's feeling right heavy because of that fuel tank. As we can see, our fuel tank right here is, where are we at? We've got about 10 gallons left on our right fuel tank. I put in about 10 extra gallons overall from what SimBrief said that I would need. So let's go back to our pilot view. So it looks like the way that this plan is, and let me just switch over to that monitor so you can see it. So this green line here shows the approach that we're on right now. I'm just kind of following it. The program gave me procedures, but since we're VFR, technically speaking, I'm not using the procedures, I'm just following the line. So it says that we're going over a solar farm, and wouldn't you know it, there's our solar farm. And as we get closer, we're going to go by the Boulder City Municipal Airport and hit the Boulder City VOR, make a left-hand turn, and end up pretty much lined up for 26 left, I think it is. Yeah, 26 left. If I can just keep this going in a straight line, we'll be fine. Anybody who watches this video, if you have routes that you like, that you think are fun, that have cool scenery, let me know. Trying to look for routes that'll take us about an hour and a half in a plane like this. That way then it gives us time to discuss the chapters and stuff like that. So I've been looking at over 100 miles. I think this one was about 190. But yeah, leave me comments and let me know other things, different landmarks and things that you think would be fun anywhere in the world. Do have a series that I'm going to do soon where I'm going to do a cross-country trip starting from Van Nuys again, and I'm going to go all the way across the country and down Florida to down to the Keys, and then we'll do some island hopping in the Caribbean, since they just released a new world update and made the Caribbean supposedly look a lot better. I haven't done any flights over there yet, and I think it would be perfect. Maybe we'll switch up planes along the way and do a different plane here and there. So, Las Vegas Airport has an elevation of 2,181 feet, which would mean that pattern altitude would be about 3,181. And we are currently at, well, it looks like we're at 8,000 feet. So we basically need to, see, I said 3,100, 8,000. So we need to drop about 5,000 feet. So at this point, we are about 15 minutes away, 26 miles. So we usually multiply elevation by 3, so I need to come down 5,000 feet. Multiply that by 3, we get 15 miles. And I like to add another 3 miles, just kind of my personal buffer. So let's say 18 miles. Right now we got about 25 miles to go. So at about 7 miles, we'll start descending. Let me know if anybody's had any cool experiences while doing their training. Private pilot, instrument, anything. Be fun to hear other people's stories. I almost got lost on my last solo. It was just a quick trip from Van Nuys to Santa Barbara and back. And as I was coming back, for some reason, I knew I had to go down this valley, which heads towards Simi Valley, and then you have the Santa Susana Pass, and right over that is where we enter our approach for Van Nuys. And for some reason, I was heading towards Santa Paula and Fillmore, so I was a little off. I'm looking around, and that's why you do VFR. And, you know, I'm looking around, and I'm like, I'm not seeing the normal, you know, visual waypoints that I would normally see. And then I saw Santa Paula Airport, and I'm like, there's no airport right here in Simi Valley. I knew I was off track. So I was able to correct it. Okay, 22 miles. Let's go back outside for some cool scenery. I'll show you one of the views that I love the most. That one's so cool. Like right on top of the tail. There's nothing but desert out here. Wonder how many bodies are down there. The old mob times. About 4 more miles to go. Ground speed still 107. Indicated airspeed 91. About 16 knot headwind coming into Vegas here. Now I have to say something before I land. You guys are probably all gonna laugh. I used to be really good at landing in the flight sim, but like I said, now when I come down, I'm expecting to feel the ground effect, and then you feel the drop and you pull back a little bit, and then you feel more drop and you pull back a little bit more. In the sim, you don't have that. You have only visual, and it's like, okay, am I dropping? I think I'm dropping. So you start to pull up, and then you find that you pull up too much, and then you end up floating, or you start picking up, taking off the ground again, and you're like, man, just put it down, and then it bounces. Like my last 5 landings have been bouncing all the way down the runway. It's a little embarrassing, but hey, I'll share it with you. Now, if I did that in real life, then you can yell at me. So we're coming into this little valley here, just over this ridge. It's like a little salt flat out there. It is nice flying kind of slow like this. You get to look at the scenery. But after like 2 hours, you're like, oh, please, just get to the destination already. It's funny, I have family members that ever since they found out that I was going for my private pilot's license, they're all excited because they think they're now going to have a private pilot to take them to and from Vegas all the time. I don't think they understand how this works. I don't mind because I'll get the hours, but you know, like I said, fuel's expensive. I don't much care for going to Vegas. It's not really my thing. Gambling has never been my thing. Oh, there's Lake Mead off in the distance. I don't think we'll be able to see Hoover Dam from this perspective. I think Hoover Dam is kind of on the other side of these hills right here. and pretty soon one of the chapters, the navigation chapter, we'll kind of go over a lot of symbols on the charts, all the sectional charts. Like I can see, I'm coming up on Class E airspace. I'm actually inside of the Las Vegas Class C airspace. Sorry, took me a second. I was thinking, where are we? So right now, I will show you. I hit the right button. So you'll see where we are right here. We have the base of this section is 8,000 feet, and it goes up to 10,000 feet. Speaking of elevation, I'm going to turn our throttle down and start our descent. Okay, that's exaggerating it a little bit. Normally when I turn it down to about 1800, you get about a 500 per minute, 500 foot per minute descent. That gives you a nice comfortable descent. So then we're going to go into this, which is a base of 6,000. So we have to be under that. Then up here, 4,500. But at this point, we would have already been talking with Las Vegas, letting them know that we're coming in, and they would probably be vectoring us in. So let's go back to here. Take a look forward as we head towards Lake Mead. Turn a little bit to the left, pretend that we're getting some vectors. I'm not sure if it's because I only have a 1080p monitor, but to me it is difficult reading these numbers sometimes. Easier to see it there, and even there it's a little fuzzy. See, we got a nice 500 foot per minute descent. We're coming down, going about 030. Getting close to Boulder City Municipal Airport. We'll be right off our nose there, just a little bit to the right. Trim down a little bit. And get a little bit faster on our descent. So since we're not shooting in a procedural approach, we're just eyeballing this. And in fact, I could start turning right about now. I think I'll go past this mountain, and then we'll turn into this little valley. It looks like there's a road there. Kind of go through there. Looks like it's called the Dutchman Pass. And we got Vegas there. You can finally see it. I guess we might have been able to see it before. I was looking the wrong direction. Take a look outside. Las Vegas there. It's just so nice how far flight simulators have come. I really do love this simulator. I know they're working right now on 2024 edition, and that's supposed to correct a lot of the problems, and hopefully it gets a little better with some of the aerodynamics. I do know I feel sometimes like the aerodynamics aren't quite real. When you hit turbulence, it bounces you very strangely, at least in this plane. I was flying from Reno to Utah in the Vision Jet, and it kept jumping up and down. It was really strange, and it was every time I went over a mountain, so you get kind of a, not a mountain wave, but like an upburst from the mountain. It's just kind of sweeping up and hitting you. It was just very odd how it was making me jiggle, like the plane was just bouncing up and down. We got about 3,000 feet to go. I'm cutting off the VOR, which is just to the right of our nose. I'm kind of pretending that we've been given clearance to make this turn. Not to mention the approach is not set on Navigraph right now, so it kind of is taking us to the center of the airport. So at this point, looks like there is a road right in front of us. Yeah. So this road right here. I'm just going to start following that road, because that road looks like it'll take us right in front of 26 left. Line it up. All right. Yep. So McLaren Airport, right? That's that was McLaren. Oops. Alright, so there's the strip, kind of oops, sorry about that. I hit the controller with my hand and everything went haywire. We were on a perfect descent. That sucks. There's the strip. I can see the stratosphere there at the end too. It's the first time I've flown to Las Vegas in the simulator. And I know there's a lot of cool scenery, but so far it's looking pretty nice. I really do like how they've created all the buildings and little residential areas out here. Take out a little more throttle, so we're going to go down a little bit quicker. $4,500 feet. Getting close. There it is. Alright, we can actually set up and turn for final. So I'm going to drop down to about 1600. I'm going to put out one notch of flaps. Go full rich, turn on our fuel pump, turn on our landing light. I'm going to aim for about 70 knots on my airspeed. So I'm still about 6 miles out when I hit this building, right about here. I'll probably throw in another notch of flaps. That nose going down. Feel like I'm crabbing a little bit. Like I said, please don't judge my landing. I know this is the most important part. All the rest of the stuff is easy. Taking off, getting to where you're supposed to get to, and then landing. That's the most important part. Looks like there's some planes on the runway. See their little strobe lights. But like I said, we're not dealing with ATC, so I'm just going to pretend they're not there. They disappear when you get close to them anyway. Oh wow, the graphics are changing in front of our eyes. Alright, runway looks clear. I don't see any PAPI lights. Okay, now I'm going to add another notch of flaps. Get our speed down. Looks like we're about 75 right now. And I'm gonna aim for the numbers. It always seems like I get to the very end, and just right at the very end, like it starts throwing me all over the place. Aim for the numbers. Clearance to land. Oh, there's the PAPI. I couldn't see them before. So there's 4 little white dots off to the side there. Okay, we're over the field. I'm going to start walking back our throttle. Okay, power is idle. Out. Oh, we're down. That actually wasn't half bad. Okay, flaps come up. And I don't know this airport. So let me pull up the chart. And looks like we're going to miss this one, this taxiway. And we'll go off on Alpha 5. Get back on the center. So I'll follow this yellow marking here. Take Alpha 5. Exit the runway. And we'll stop right after the runway marker here. Come to a complete stop there. This is when we pick up our checklist again, and we look at our after landing. So flaps retracted, fuel pump can go off, there we go, landing light can go off. Oh, this one, wrong one. And then the transponder would set to standby, which right now we're all already in. Come on, turn to standby. There we go. It's in standby mode. Alright, and that is our after landing. So, not really sure where the general... so here, let me switch you back over so you can see what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at the charts here and trying to find general aviation parking. Oh, it's way over here. Okay, so I think what I want to do is I'm going to take myself down this middle, and then we'll turn on Alpha 8, come up here, and then we'll turn on Bravo, take Bravo across over to Hotel, and we'll come up there. All right. I just thought taxiing was the fun part, or one of the fun parts. I always like all the lights on the runways and everything. Oh, look at that, we're racing a big jumbo jet there. See it there? I don't know if he's taking off or it looks like he's slowing down because we're beating him. All right, keep our eyes on the road. So the other day when I was doing my Reno to Utah trip, I made it all the way there. I did a good landing, and then I'm on the taxiway and just hit an invisible object, and it said, "You have crashed. You hit a you hit something on the taxiway." It was just like this. There was absolutely nothing. Not sure what it was. All right, this is Alpha 8. So let's slow it down and we'll turn right, and we're gonna pretend that we've already been given clearance. Normally we would stop here because we would have been told to hold short of runway 26 right. Oh, I guess I stopped anyway, and we'll just keep going across the runway. That's neat, you can see the strip. And then the first taxiway when we get across is going to be Bravo. We'll be turning here. Kind of a sharp turn. And now we go straight across, and we're going to cross 1 right and 8 left. It's interesting. They look like they're in parallel, but it says 1 right, 8 left. Okay, we've been given clearance to just get across the airport as fast as we can. Okay, so not this one. We're going to go straight and kind of hang it right here. So I think any of this area here is really kind of general aviation. I think. Oh. Why did I stop? Keep going. I think the brakes are just really sensitive. I gotta turn down the sensitivity. So, take a look outside. Okay, there it is. Go over there, park next to the other. Looks like another Piper. I don't know if anybody... Whoa, this one gets really squiggly here. Let's just mosey on over here. I don't know if anybody was watching when the F1 fiasco happened, where they were charging so much money for anybody to come in and park at any of the local airports, and it was like tens of thousands of dollars. And I promise you, I'm usually not this bad with pulling into a parking spot like this. Like I said, the brakes are really touchy, so we're just going to call it there. And we are going to pull our parking brake. Parking brake is set. And the way you turn off the plane, you just cut the mixture. And then we will turn off our lights. And we will turn off our batteries. Nope, not. There we go. And that's it. And we get our little thing here. We had 1 day landing. Took us 2 hours and 23 minutes. See, in the Archer 2. So I hope you guys had a good time, and please tune in for the next video. Like I said, we finished chapters 1 and 2. Now my plan is to do 1 chapter per. I knew chapter 1 was relatively short, so that's why I combined the 2. So chapter 3 coming up. Thanks for hanging out with me.